Hi Bookends! Welcome to a 10-minute book review. I'm 10. Today's book review is going to be on Felix Ever After by Kacen Callender. Now this was not a book that was given to us for the purpose of review. We are reviewing it because we were in a tag video that Olivia over at Olivia Catastrophe put up recently. She is a wonderful booktuber. Well, actually, she does booktube, but she also does like life stuff as well. She travels a lot. She just came back from Australia and she has a bunch of videos about Australia. I believe that she lives in the Netherlands, and so she has some stuff about that as well. So she's just like an awesome YouTuber. She put up a video naming different black booktubers to follow, and we were one of the booktubers to follow. And she also put up a list of books, so for each booktuber there was a different book, but she encourages everyone who watches it to kind of use this as a way to read more books that are written about black and brown people and written by black and brown people. So jumping right on in, we like to start off every book review with a star point, as in out of 10 stars, how many stars did this particular book garner. We also like to give a rating, as in if this was a movie or a TV show, what would this book be rated? Star point wise, this book rated very low. It was a 4. And for a rating as in PG-13, what have you, this book is definitively an R based upon the language that's used within it. So the book follows Felix Love. He is a 17-year-old New Yorker who goes to an art school. He's been accepted into a summer program, and he's there with his best friend, his best friend's ex, and some other auxiliary characters. So Felix is transgendered. He is FTM, which is female to male. I believe at the age of 12 he started transitioning, and that's when he made his father aware that he was never a boy, never a girl, but actually a boy. He also sent an email to his mother because his mother had separated herself from his father. I believe they divorced, and she has a brand new, shiny, wonderful family in Florida. But he sent an email to his mother, and his mother never responded. What the book doesn't make clear is whether or not the mother no longer speaks to him because he's transgender and transitioning, or because she has always been a jerk and dismissive towards him, and this is just, you know, she doesn't even care that he's transgendered because she didn't particularly care for him anyway. I honestly do not know, and it's hard to tell from him because sometimes children who are abandoned still have this bond with the person who abandoned them and still try to reach out to them and have a deep love for them despite the abandonment. So it's hard to tell from the way that he treats her whether or not there was some sort of emotional void or chasm that existed before the abandonment. So his dad is poor. He's like the working class poor. So he does have a job. He does bring in some money, but of course not enough. And at times he takes in like 2 or 3 jobs at a time just to make ends meet. I could really identify with that because, you know, my dad had to do something similar when we were younger. You know, 6 people. The mouths gotta get fed somehow. So it was cheaper for my mom to stay home instead of to have some sort of daycare system set up or anything. So my dad had to take on 2 or 3 jobs as well. So I get that reasoning. He is in a, not the dad, but Felix is in a summer program in which he shares space with his best friend, his ex's best friend, and a few other auxiliary characters who kind of pop in and out or who kind of stay at the fringe of the story. Now this isn't a spoiler, it happens right at the beginning of the book, and I believe it's mentioned in the blurb as well. Felix has a horrible moment when he comes into the school for the summer program, and pictures of himself before he transitioned are all up on the wall as a gallery, because remember this is like an art school, so someone did something artsy fartsy with it. So they took his pictures, somehow they hacked his Instagram account and took pictures that he had listed on private and put them all up in the walls in the lobby so everyone could see what he looked like before he transitioned. And they also used his dead name. Now, a dead name is the name that a person who is transgendered received at birth, like the name that their parents gave them, not the name that they chose. So to give an example, if someone was transitioning from male to female and their name was Thomas and their new name is Tanya, Thomas is considered the dead name, and Tanya is not considered any type of name. It's just their name. It's the name that they introduce themselves with. So it has no title to that name. It's just their name. But the old name, let's imagine Thomas, would be considered the dead name. So he gets dead named, which is basically putting that name out for everyone to see. Kind of like getting outed. Like a gay person getting outed is kind of the same because they didn't choose to be put in that position. Now, it's no secret that Felix is transgendered. In the summertime, he wears shirts that show the scars on his chest where his breast, the fatty parts or the fleshy parts of the breast were removed and flattened. So he wears shirts that show the scarring there. And the scarring is a different color, of course, from his skin because he's brown. So that means the scarring would be a darker shade of his color. So there's no hiding that, or should they, there is ways to hide that, but he didn't hide that. And also he made it very clear to the people that he was around and his friends that he's transgendered. He also hangs out with a lot of different people who are part of the LGBTQ community. So it's not as though he is the unicorn in the bunch, because they're all different parts of it. Of course, he's embarrassed by what happens to him, and the main, I should say, in the beginning, it's the main drag of the book, finding out who did this to him. But then that drama becomes the secondary part of it because of how he reacts to that being done. Something interesting about this is, okay, this is also one of the things that gave it kind of a 4 stars thing for me. Felix, he's poor, you know, he's working class poor. His dad works as a doorman, and he takes on odd jobs to kind of supplement what his pay as a doorman just can't. There is a point in the book where Felix says that he knows he should not be grateful, or that he doesn't have to be grateful to his father for assisting him in transitioning. But here's the thing. Being poor, because I grew up working class poor, and I'm not ashamed to admit I'm working class poor right now. Being poor when it comes to your own bills, like the classic bills, like either the rent or the mortgage, the light bill, bills, you know, for keep food in the home, to keep other utilities like phones so that, you know, your kid can call 911 if something happens. To keep just the classic bills up to date, or at least the services on, can sometimes take more money than what's in the paycheck. A lot of times it does take more money than what's in the paycheck. So now we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. When a monkey wrench gets thrown in, such as your kid needs braces, your kid needs glasses, something that is more expensive than what it is you were planning on, now it's like, okay, which one of these bills I gotta rob so that my kid can get what they need? To give an example of that, when I was younger, much younger, like when I was in high school, I needed glasses. I had never needed glasses any time in my life, but I needed glasses. My dad had insurance, but the insurance only pays but so much. I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand. It's like, well, why don't you have insurance? You can have insurance, and insurance doesn't pay everything. It just pays a percentage. And if the percentage left over to pay is more than what you have, then you're caught out. So I needed glasses. Now, I'm not the only child my father has. He has 4 kids, all living in the same household. Plus he has a wife and himself. So the rent didn't go away. The food bills didn't go away. The light and gas bills didn't go away. The phone bill didn't go away. Nothing went away. But, you know, 10's glasses got added on top of that. So what did my dad have to do? Because I needed to be able to see. First, I had to wait, right? I couldn't get the glasses at that moment because we didn't have the money at that moment. So I had to wait for my dad to be able to save up enough by doing enough overtime so that the rent wasn't late, so that PSC&G got paid, made sure we had food every week because of course he doesn't want his kids to starve. So my dad ended up having to go above and beyond to be able to not only support his family in the classic ways that he would normally do, but also be able to get his one daughter something that she needed. Now, would I have died without my glasses? No, it wasn't like it was insulin or asthma medication or a cancer treatment. No, I would not have died without my glasses, but it did help my life. It did improve life quality because I could see. And so that helped to improve my grades as well and my confidence because I could see. When it came to Felix, it's like at times he would say that he appreciated his dad, and at other times he didn't give him enough credit. It's like this man who's working 3 jobs just to make ends meet, not for anything extra, right? Not to do anything extra, not for glasses, not for braces, not for a car note. Working 3 jobs just to make ends meet. Now has a son that he's finding out at the age of 12 is transgendered, and is trying to figure out how am I going to get my son treatment, and now I got to pay for this surgery. Now insurance, once again, they did help, but the percentage left over was still so high that he had to take on more financial responsibilities to be able to do this for his son. And so for Felix to say, I know I shouldn't be grateful to my father for assisting me in transitioning. No, you should be grateful to your father. Because this man is busting his behind by himself. Because Felix is 17. I want to know why Felix doesn't have a job. I had a job at 15. So why is this kid, this nearly grown person who's 17, why doesn't he have a job anyway? So yes, he should be grateful that this grown man who loves him is busting his behind to make sure that he has what he needs to be able to complete the transition that he's going through. Would Felix have died if he didn't have the medications that he needed for his transition? Would Felix have died if he didn't have the top surgery? No, it was not life and death. His father actively worked hard for his son to be able to have the additional money that he needed in order for his son to be able to transition in the way that his son felt comfortable doing so. So yes, Felix should be grateful because not all parents, 1, can do it, which he mentioned, not everyone can financially do it, and 2, not all parents are willing to do that. Meaning if they have all these bills piling up, they might be like, okay, well, I am sorry. I cannot afford to get you top surgery right now. I can't afford it at all. I've got too many bills. Too many things are piling on. I'm the only person working in this house. I can't afford it. Some parents legit can't do it. And so because this man was willing to put his self aside, his sleep, his comfort aside, so that his son can have something above and beyond what he's required to do, I think that is beautiful that his father put his mindset to do that, made himself do that. So yes, Felix should appreciate that because not everyone can, not everyone would. That's one of the things that brought it down to a 4-star for me. But let me start, I went on my rant. So let me tell you about the things that I enjoyed about the book before I go into the things that brought it down. So something that I liked about the book is that when Felix got dead named, they did not tell his dead name. So it just says that he got dead named. And by the way, this is in first person, so it's like Felix is talking to you. Maybe I don't want to say like in a diary type way, but it's more like a conversational way. So yeah, when it says that he got dead named, it doesn't actually say the name. So the reader who's reading it still is in sync with Felix through Felix's mind. We don't meet, or we don't get to imagine Felix as someone else. We don't have any description of what those Instagram pictures that were stolen look like. We don't know. I know he mentioned that he had long hair, but we don't know if that long hair was in braids, cornrows, natural, relaxed. We don't know what color the dress he was wearing at that time was. We don't know. So we still stay thoroughly involved with Felix. Something else that I liked about it was I learned some new terminology. So there is something in the transgendered world called demi, so you can be a demi boy or a demi girl, which basically means that the person identifies with masculinity or femininity. Like if it's a demi boy, then they identify with masculinity, but they feel as though there's something in between. They're not androgynous, they're definitively male, but they feel as though they're not completely male. It's kind of a little bit of a gray area, and I may not be explaining it as clearly. The book didn't really describe it very clearly either, but it did make it clear enough to understand that this is some sort of a midway point in between transitioning from female to male and not quite fully being at that point of male. But this actually, demi boy has nothing to do with the actual transition itself, but the feelings of the person who is transitioning. And so, learned something new. What else did I enjoy? I have to find things. Okay, also the cover too. So if you get a good look at the cover, we can see that the boy is wearing like a wife beater or an A shirt, depending on where you come from, what you would call it. But yeah, he's wearing that, and very clearly you can see right beneath where breasts would have been the scarring, the darker scarring, showing the top half surgery, healed top half surgery. So I can appreciate the representation that's shown. Like, it doesn't look clean. Because when someone has surgery, it's not a clean process. I had a child cut out of me. It's not a clean process. I still have the scarring. Can't see it, but it still exists. So I appreciate that the picture on the front, the cover, was done in a way that it shows he has the scarring. Also, I appreciate that on the cover it shows flowers, and it's like it's colored in, but it's not completely colored in. And of course, at the age of 17, he's not completely done with his transition, so it kind of shows that there's still time left, or still things left undone. Also too, I appreciated that he was vulnerable, that he cried. He cried a lot in the book, and that wasn't particularly off-putting, because the situations in which he felt as though he needed to cry, or I don't want to say needed to cry, but the times where he felt as though he was going to cry were times where it just seemed appropriate. He wasn't just, oh my god, it's raining outside, blah. Like, no, they seemed appropriate. The reason why I found this to be a relief is because generally when someone is trying to show the transition from femininity to masculinity, they try to make it as though the person transitioning is without emotion, like to show the difference between someone who is a woman, someone who is a man. To give an example of that, you may read in books where the heroine is very like emotional, always emotional, crying, and why don't you love me, and you see the guy who's like stoic and angsty and never shows his emotions, and you never know how he's feeling, and you only have to know if you only know if you hear it in his head, like if you read his thoughts. So that's just not the case. The dudes have feelings too, but unfortunately society makes out as though those feelings are either not valid or they are not revealable. Like, you're less of a dude if you reveal how you feel emotionally, which is not true. So I appreciate that even though Felix is very masculine, he still was able to remain vulnerable, because masculinity devoid femininity does not mean that there is no sense of feeling or vulnerableness. It just means that this is a dude crying instead of a woman crying. Let's get to the things I did not like about this book, because there are many. I'm not going to go through all of them because I don't think that would be fair, but I will go through the big points. First of all, this author must have a romantic relationship with the F word. I believe that Kacen Callender and the F word are in love, they are engaged, they are getting married, and they are having a buttload of children. Like, this person is in love with that word. I could not get, it felt like you couldn't go 5 pages without the word, without the F word. It felt like on some pages the F word was more, it was like the, like, you know how you read the or is or a in a sentence, and so you may look at a page and see like maybe 20 thes. That's what the F word was. The F word was like a conjunction. So that was one thing. I couldn't recommend this to anyone because it cursed so much. Secondly, this book is not really of any use to adults, right? Because if an adult is reading this, they've already either began their transition phase, or they're in the beginning of considering their transition, or they may have completed their transition. But either way, they would not be picking up this book about a teenager in order to help them during their transition or think about their transition. So this young adult book would be most likely geared towards just that, young adults. I would not buy this book for a young adult. I would not buy this book for a teenager. Like, of course, they're going to hear certain words anyway, but I'm not going to, you're not going to get my money to do that. It is so, it curses so much. Like, it doesn't even make sense. I don't want to say that this is a black scent because it wasn't. It was definitely not a black scent. Everyone in the book cursed profusely. But it was just a lot. Second or thirdly, I don't know if you want to take that as 1 and 1B, but second or thirdly, Felix was not a likable character. Felix was whiny. Felix was entitled. Felix felt like everything he had should have been given to him. Felix got mad at his dad for dead naming him, but seemed to give his mom a pass for not even trying to be a part of his life. It's like, I don't believe that he said anything to his dad about dead naming him, but here's the thing, like, this man knew you for 12 years as whatever the female name that they gave you was. And he is trying his darndest, like, he is doing his best to help you to become the person that you feel as though you should be. He is doing it. He is paying those bills. He is offering to go with you to the clinic when you get your shot so you don't have to go by yourself. He paid for the top surgery. He is rooting for you to go to wherever it is you want to go and do whatever it is you want to do. And he is working like a slave to get you there. And yet, Felix cuts his mother more slack than he does his father. So what Felix does is he writes these emails to his mom that he never sends. He hasn't sent her an email since he sent her the one saying that he was trans and he got no response back. So he sends her a bunch, he types out a bunch of emails that he never sends her. And we never, okay, let's move that into reason 4 why I don't like the book. So he sends her all these emails as to his life, like it's almost like a diary, like trying to tell her what's going on with his life, and at the end of it he usually tells her that he's mad that she doesn't talk to him, but he never sends it. It's all in his draft. We never quite get a resolution as to why his mother doesn't like him, why his mother doesn't talk to him, where his mother is at. We know that she has a new husband, and he knows that we know that Felix has a stepsister, so it's not his mother's child, because that'd be a half sister, so the sister must have came with the new husband. But we don't know why the rift is there, because it appears as though we don't know why the rift is there. We just don't. And there's no resolution given as to whether he never confronts his mom and says, you know, hey, you're a jerk. Or, hey, why don't you talk to me? Like, he never calls her or anything like that. And I would imagine that because the parents got divorced and the woman hasn't completely disappeared, he has her email address, most likely has a phone number. So he should be able to call her at some point and say, hi, Mom, what's up? I feel as though the author should have in some way provided some form of resolution. Not that his mother magically was okay with him transitioning, but we don't even know as the reader if that's the reason why she's not okay. Like, we don't know why she doesn't talk to him. We never get any resolution as to why she doesn't talk to him. We just know that she doesn't. For all we know, she could be dead in someone's trunk. We don't know. Another thing I did not like about this is okay. So, Felix Love, that's his last name, Love. And the major thing for him is he's never been in love. But he devises a plan to get back at the boy who he believes is the one who put up the gallery in the school. And his way of getting back at him is by catfishing him, by pretending to be someone else online and then getting him to reveal a secret about himself. He ends up falling in love with him. Now here's the thing. The boy who he believes to have put the gallery up in the school is his best friend's ex. So his best friend's ex starts to fall in love with him. And he thinks that he might be in love with his best friend's ex as well. Then he also finds out that his best friend is in love with him. So it's like, okay, there's just codes to things. Like, if this is your legit best friend, the one that goes to bat for you, the one that stands up for you, the one that is always there for you, I don't care how much love you may feel, or how much love, because remember, they're teenagers, so how much love you may feel, this is your boy. Like, you don't do that. Like, there's levels to this. I don't care how you feel, you don't indulge in likings. Felix is just not a likable character. He's just not. Something else I did not like about this book was that he spends the first couple of chapters of it pining after a girl who called him a misogynist for transitioning from female to male. So apparently he was in love with this white girl at the beginning of the book, and he wanted to date her. Her name was Marisol, and they go on a date for like 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. And then finally she says to him, well, I can't date you anymore because you're a misogynist. You know, going from female to male means that you obviously hate women, which I don't understand how that could be misconstrued as hate. But she's like, you obviously hate women because you're choosing to go from a woman to a man, even though that's not really how it works. So I can't date you anymore. So that basically broke Felix for a bit. And in a way, he's pining after her, and he feels as though he can't tell anybody what she said to him. When he finally does tell what she said to him, it irritates me to feel like he was pining after. So sometimes when people write black characters, they make them pine after the white ones, and they kind of lift them up. They make this white character seem as though they are the bread and butter of the world. Like, these are the best people on the earth. This is the most wonderful, 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 wonderful person on the earth. Even if this person is treating them like crap, even if this person is not interested. And I get irritated by that, because it takes a white character, places them with a brown character, and then places that white character on a pedestal above this brown character. And this brown character is always trying to inch up to this pedestal, and the pedestal just keeps moving. Like, haha! This girl is the most attainable thing in the world! And it removes agency from the black or brown character and makes them feel, in my opinion, when I'm reading it, it feels like, okay, well, this black or brown character no longer has agency or autonomy because they are pining after this person who is so other than they are, that they look at themselves and think, why am I not as good as this person? And that was some of the things that Felix went through towards the beginning. He was saying that she's so confident and she's so perfect and she's so whatever and everything, and he wished that he could be like her and hoped that some of that would rub off on him instead of just appreciating who he was. And there were other black and brown characters in the book, but for some reason he just felt as though this one white character was the pinnacle of perfect. And so in the beginning of the book, for the first 3 or 4 chapters, he's pining after her. Everything is like, she's so perfect. She's so perfect. She broke up with me, but she's so perfect. There's something wrong with me because she's so perfect. That was irritating. I can't really go into some of the things that irritated me without ruining the book, without spoiling the plot, but I can say that the person who actually did put up the gallery, like, this came out of left field. It was an auxiliary character. It didn't make any sense. It felt as though the author was trying to put a tidy bow on a messy present. You know, just wrapping paper and things everywhere and then just put a bow on it and say, here you go, you're welcome. No, it was not, it didn't make sense to me. It's just, yeah, it was not a great book. I do not recommend Felix Ever After to anyone. It is just, unless you have a romantic relationship with the F word and you just like seeing it a lot, or if you have a romantic relationship to people who feel as though they're entitled to everything, then you might like this book. This is, I would definitely not recommend this to any teenagers, anyone considering transitioning. I would not recommend this book at all. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe. Bye, Bookends.